team like Kyrie and KD, or the Lake Show with King James and AD. Wish I could match him up with the bad boys from the 80s, but no black and white, I need that in HD. HenDawgz.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy HenDawg, and we back to it. You know how we do it. Richard Jefferson on why prime Shaq is the most dominant player in NBA history. And I have to agree. Well, I'm not even gonna say the most dominant player in NBA history because I just don't know. I wasn't around for all of NBA history. But what I will say is he's the most dominant player that I've ever seen. And I kind of took it for granted a little bit because I was such a big Kobe fan that I just wanted Kobe to get all the shine. And even when Shaq was going crazy, I was kind of like, you know, it's because Kobe was doing this and doing that. But now in the calm of the day, it's 10, 15 years later, I will have to say that I've never seen someone as dominant as Shaq. But before we get into this video, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. We are on the way to 10K. Go ahead and like this video. If you like this video, go ahead and write something in the comments. Let me know if you think there's a player out there that was more dominant than Shaq. Because it could be. It could be some arguments out there. You could say that Wilt scored 100 points in the game. Shaq ain't never scored 100 points. Kareem is, at one point before this season, was the #1 scorer of all time. So you could say that he was the most dominant. Hakeem Olajuwon, Bill Russell got 11 rings. Like, it's a lot of guys out there that we could say. LeBron, like, you could say that these players are the most dominant, but like Richard Jefferson say, I think it might be Shaq. But let's get into this video. We got why prime Shaq is the most dominant player in NBA history. Let's get it.
We hope you enjoy this clip. Before you watch it, please hit that subscribe button. I want to get your perspective on something because you brought up your early Nets teams, which were fantastic, by the way. Great teams. Enjoyed watching them play. Yeah. We talk about all-time greats all the time. We have to do it on NBA Today. We have to do it on First Take. And one of the players that, to me, gets a little bit lost in the discourse is Shaq. And listen, some of this is because later on in his career, let's be honest, he was out of shape. He didn't finish as strong. And so, like, there's some recency bias. But when we talk about the 3-year run between 2000 to 2002, I'm going to go through this real quick. And you guys were there in 2002, and I want to get your thoughts on game planning for Shaq at this point in his career. Shaq in 2000 versus the Pacers. He averaged 38 points, 16.7 rebounds, 2.7 blocks, and shot 61% from the field.
That's
in the finals.
crazy.
In 01 against the 76ers, 33 points a game, 16 rebounds, almost 5 assists, 3.4 blocks, and 57% from the field. Then against you guys, 36, 12, 3.8 assists, 2.8 blocks, 60% from the field. What the fuck could you do with Shaquille O'Neal at that point in his career? Now, this is the part.
I like the way they talk on here. Shout out to both Richard Jefferson and JJ Redick. I like these guys. But yeah, something that I kind of want to correct him on is he said that later on in Shaq's career, he was a little bit out of shape, but I've heard some stories where he was never in shape. Like, even during these times right here where he was averaging 37 and 15 or whatever he said, he was still out of shape. So just imagine if Shaq would have been in shape. That's something I think Kobe said, like, all those points, and he wasn't even in shape. So if he would have been in shape, he probably could have broke that 100-point record by Wilt. Like, he was that good, that dominant, that strong. Like, it's crazy to think about, for real.
Like I've said, the 4 best teams I ever played against: Lakers in that 01, the Kevin Durant led Warriors.
01, you lost to Duke.
Yeah, no, it was the 01-02 season, fucker. So my bad. See, this is shit I'm talking about. This is shit I'm talking about. It's like he's like, no, 01 you lost to Duke. It's like, no, it was 01-02 season. Started in 01, but okay. It was the Kevin Durant led Warriors. Then it was the San Antonio Spurs with Tim and Pop and eventually 5 Hall of Famers in that group. But with the Shaq shit, there was no fucking guarding him. And Draymond, you my boy. And they talk, we bring his ass up and shit and pick and roll. Dre, I love your defense. Like, he is like, the way he has played defense has really changed the game. The ability, you were not going in 02. You were not fucking with Shaq, bro. They changed how you had to construct your roster. You had to have 2 or 3 bigs just for fucking fouls. Not like good bigs. We just need bigs there. We need big bodies. If you haven't seen Wilt Chamberlain play, which none of us have, right? Like, obviously not in person, but I'm saying none of us have seen Wilt Chamberlain play. He has been the most dominant player in the history of the game of basketball, period. And not LeBron, not Steph.
JJ is not back
Magic,
in the NBA.
MJ.
No way.
Like, Shaq physically was the most dominant player we have ever seen, like maybe will ever see, because of his sheer size, athleticism, skill, footwork, hands, everything. There was no guarding him. Like, and let me be clear. They don't call fouls every single time you foul him. Like, there's times where he's going up for a dunk and you just do a flyby and you hit his wrist. And he's like, watch out, little fella. I'll break your wrist next time. And you're just sitting there like, if my hand was in between the rim and he was trying to dunk it, he would break my fucking wrist. That's not a lie. And there's no other player that I can think of in recent history that has that type of strength and power. He changed the fucking equipment. Backboards were getting broken. Like, when people talk about Steph changing the game, true. I think there's lots of players that changed the game, including Shaquille O'Neal.
It's not a lot.
They literally had to change the physical equipment because they had never seen someone with that level of strength before.
Okay, those were 2 players right there. He said it was a lot of players that changed the game, which I disagree. Name me some players that changed the game. Yes, Steph. Yes, Shaq. Yes, Jordan. Larry Bird, Magic. Like, it's not a lot of guys, but write in the comments some people that y'all feel like changed the game. Let me know.
That's changing the game, right? And it's like the equipment needed to be adjusted because of him. So, like, I love it. If Shaq was today and that Laker team was today, like, obviously they would change some things, but no. Shaq was the most dominant physically dominant person I've ever seen in my life.
Do you like the Giannis comparison at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Orlando Magic Shaq, though?
Giannis is the same type of dominance when you see like percentage around the rim, because there was a size and a fucking mass to Shaq that was different. He was like Embiid, but he moved like Giannis. Like, imagine that. Like, he wasn't as skilled, but I'm saying like his size, and he is, I would even say 1x bigger than fucking Embiid. He's bigger than Embiid, and he was athletic like Giannis. Like, that's a different. We've never seen a combo of that. But Giannis, like with the dunks and the stuff, yeah, you could see that. But you don't have to change your roster and have 3 bigs for Giannis.
It's a great point. I remember watching those teams with the Nets and like J Kidd and the throw ahead passes to you and Kerry Kittles.
Kerry Kittles.
At the time, you know, I'm a college kid, but I had grown up watching the NBA.
Were you a fan
of the Nets?
of me?
Not particularly.
Me.
Not particularly. You know what it was?
You didn't emulate your game.
Can I tell you what it was?
Tell me.
And we can get into this.
Please.
Because I've always wanted to ask.
Here we go.
I've always wanted to publicly ask.
Why was you bored at 19?
My first time at MSG was my senior year of high school. We played the McDonald's game there. And then my freshman year, we played in MSG, sophomore year MSG, junior year MSG, and then senior year, we played Texas in the Meadowlands. Mm-hmm. And while we won, and I had, a 40 ball,
humble.
The only thing I could think to myself would be like, what a shitty place to play professional basketball.
It was god awful.
So that's why I wasn't a fan.
That's fair. That's why they had to move. Like, we were going to NBA Finals and they weren't sold out, right? Like, and then we're playing against the Lakers too. It's like we could even the Lakers weren't drawing enough for us to sell it. It was a massive arena. It wasn't. It just wasn't.
Just didn't have a great soul.
It didn't have a very good soul, but the people and the fans were fucking amazing, and I feel lucky to be a part of that group, because the Nets, very similar to when you got to the Clippers, right? You guys started the Clipper franchise. And I say that respectfully to all the guys that were there before. I'm not saying, but you brought it to a
Quinn Richardson and them, Darius Miles,
level of relevance. And the Nets had never won a playoff series before we got there. That was still they had never won a playoff series. And since they came when Dr. J, went to Philly, and they hadn't had really any success. Maybe one playoff series. Don't quote me on that. but it was like what we were doing every year, going to finals, doing this, and every day they would come to us like, hey, the Nets have never done this before, the Nets have never done this before, and now there's a generation of kids and adults that really only remember the Nets from a level of prominence, and that could be the KG Paul Pierce year, that could be, you know, the KD Kyrie's time. Like, they remember the Nets at least being in a level of prominence, and that part I feel very special to be a part of.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anyways, what I was going to say about the team. No, I wanted to say about the team, as I remember thinking you guys played fast. You know, that's what I thought. You guys played fast. I looked up the numbers today. So
our pace was going to be really slow.
So you were, in 2002, when you made the finals against the Lakers, you were 8th in the league in pace at 93.2
beautiful
possessions per 100. Kings were number 1 that year at 96.7. 03, 11th in pace. A little bit higher, actually. Kings' number was the same. 04, 17th in pace. That's when you lost to the Pistons. You actually went down that year. And just for some context here, 04, 05, the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns, they were number 1 in pace both those years at 97 and 96. This year, number 30 in pace is the Cleveland Cavaliers at 96.1.
That's crazy.
And you played in an era...
But let's not confuse that with better basketball. Just because y'all are running faster and throwing up terrible shots don't mean that today's basketball is better than the 90s or what was that, early 2000s. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, yes, it's faster, but not necessarily better.
Of slow basketball, a lot of post feed, a lot of ISO, and you also played in the era that I played in towards the end of my career, which is spacing, movement, quicker pace, quicker body movement, all that stuff. At the time, what did it feel like? Now looking back, what is it? What do you remember it as in terms of the basketball up and down?
I felt like we were like a college team. Like, because when I was at Arizona, it was, you know, Gilbert, me, Jason Gardner. We were a fat, you know, for college. Like, let's say you never saw the shot clock go off when Arizona played basketball. Like, that was not what we did. So like, you know, I go to the Nets and I get my dream point guard. I was a Magic Johnson fan. I was a Jason Kidd fan. I had Jason Gardner and Jason Terry as my point guards. Like, I loved point guards because that's what I wasn't a dribbler. I wasn't a one-on-one guy. I wanted to run. I wanted to cut. Like, that was the part of the game I liked. And so, like, now that when I go back and watch the Nets pace, it was fun, man, because it was like we were out running and dunking. When I first came into the league, I was not a very good shooter. Jason Kidd was turned into a better shooter and three-point threat, but wasn't in the beginning. Kenyon Martin could not shoot. Jason Collins, God, he could not fucking do anything, right? And yeah, I said that, Jason. Just, you know, someone's going to text you and be like, oh, Richard was talking shit. Yes, I was. Who cares?
I like Richard Jefferson.
We had 4 guys that couldn't shoot great, and then Kerry was our one, like, kind of shooter. He was our J.J. Redick, if you will, but he played defense. So yeah, we had to run because that was our only way of scoring. If you got us in the half court, it was like Princeton offense. And, you know, that was the kind of the thing that we ran for cuts. But I'll say this. Jason Kidd might have been the fastest point guard in the league. He was the fastest point guard in the league. Kenyon at the power forward was as fast and as athletic. I'd like to believe myself as like one of the 3 or 4 fastest guys in the small forward position. And Kerry was 1 or 2 fast as far as, like, I would turn around and Kerry would be 2 steps in front of me. So we had a unit that was so fast, and that was our only way to play and be successful. So we played defense to get out on the break. Like, we played mean fucking defense so that we could get out and run, and that was our success was based on.
You think there was a piece you were missing that would have allowed you to win one of those championships?
If we had Shaq, that would probably would have helped.
We hope you had fun with us today.
Great video. They always kind of like start going into other stuff, but the premise of this video was to talk about how unstoppable and how dominant Shaq was. So I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go ahead and like this video if you like this video, and go ahead and write something in the comments. Do you believe that Shaq is the most dominant player of all time? Prime Shaq. Is Prime Shaq the most dominant player? Is he more dominant than Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Giannis, and B? Like, it's a lot of guys you can throw in there, but let me know if y'all think Shaq was the most dominant. But I appreciate y'all like always. We out.